Hey, black boy with the mop, get over here! Craig Dutton threw a bag of trash straight at Byron Johnson's chest. Food scraps and coffee grounds splattered across his shirt.
There.
That's
where
you belong. In the garbage.
In the garbage.
Byron brushed the filth off slowly, eyes steady. Yes, sir. Craig stepped closer, finger jabbing Byron's chest.
Don't
yes, sir, me, boy. You stink. This whole floor stinks because of you. Know why?
Because they keep hiring
trash to clean trash. Silence. Everyone watched. Nobody breathed. Byron knelt, picked up the trash with bare hands. I'll take care of it. But what nobody knew, the man on his knees, covered in garbage, was about to be introduced as the new owner of this entire company. And every face in that room was about to drain white.
Yeah, that's where it starts. Let's get into the story. The Ballantine Hotel, Presidential Suite, 14th floor. Charlotte's skyline glowed pink through floor-to-ceiling windows. Dawn was just breaking. Byron Johnson stood in front of the bathroom mirror. 52. Tall. Broad shoulders. Salt and pepper hair cropped close. The kind of man who filled a doorway without trying. But this morning, he wasn't dressed like a man worth $2.3 billion. Faded khakis, a plain gray polo shirt, beat-up work boots from a thrift store. He looked at himself and almost smiled. He looked exactly like what he used to be, a janitor. His phone buzzed on the marble countertop. Byron, it's Arthur. Everything's set. Your name is on the maintenance roster as of 6 a.m. Badges waiting at the service entrance. Nobody on the executive floor knows. Not one soul. Arthur Whitfield, 60 years old, the outgoing interim CEO of Greystone Properties. He'd been running the company since the last CEO resigned in a financial scandal 4 months ago. Now, Greystone belonged to Byron, all $680 million of it. The acquisition papers sat in a leather briefcase on the hotel desk.
Good, Byron said. I'll be there by 6:45.
Are you sure about this? You could walk in the front door. Announce yourself. Take the corner office.
Byron looked at the work boots on the carpet. Arthur, I've bought 11 companies in 20 years. Every single time, I spend the first day at the bottom, pushing a mop, emptying trash cans, cleaning toilets. You know why? Because you're stubborn. Because the way a company treats its janitor tells me everything. I've killed 3 deals based on what I saw from the ground floor. If the culture is rotten, I find out on day 1. Arthur sighed. And if it is rotten? Then heads roll. Byron hung up. He set the briefcase back down. Wouldn't need it yet. He grabbed a brown paper bag with a ham sandwich inside, his lunch for the day, took one last look in the mirror. The man staring back didn't look like someone who owned private jets and penthouses in 4 cities. He looked like someone who would be ignored.
Talked down to. Invisible. That was the point. 40 minutes later, the Greystone Properties Tower rose against the morning sky like a glass blade. 22 stories. Uptown Charlotte. The lobby inside was marble and chrome. A waterfall hummed against the far wall. The company logo, a silver mountain peak, hung above reception in polished steel. 400 employees. Commercial real estate. Office leases, property management, development deals across the Southeast. On paper, a respectable firm. Underneath, something else entirely. The executive floor sat on 22. Corner offices with skyline views. Italian leather chairs. Fresh flowers every Monday. Up there, people drank bourbon after 4 p.m. The lower floors were a different world. Fluorescent lights that buzzed and flickered. Carpet stained from years of neglect. Break rooms with coffee machines nobody cleaned. And the janitorial staff, mostly black, mostly Latino, moved through the building like ghosts.
They came before dawn, left after dark, cleaned the toilets, mopped the floors, emptied the trash. Not once did anyone on the executive floor learn a single one of their names. 6:45 a.m., Byron walked through the service entrance.
Narrow hallway, gray concrete walls. The smell of bleach and industrial soap hit him immediately. The facilities manager barely looked up from his clipboard. "New guy? Johnson?" "That's me." He handed Byron a lanyard. "Maintenance, B. Johnson." A ring of keys. A yellow mop bucket on wheels. 22nd floor, executive level. Empty trash, mop halls, clean bathrooms. Stay out of people's way. Don't talk unless spoken to. Byron clipped the lanyard to his shirt. Understood. He pushed the mop bucket toward the service elevator. The wheels squeaked against concrete. The doors opened with a tired groan. He stepped inside. Pressed 22. The doors closed. Byron stood alone. The fluorescent light flickered once, then held steady. Employees would start arriving in about an hour. And when they did, Byron Johnson, billionaire, CEO, owner of this entire building, would be on his knees scrubbing their floors. The only question was, what would they do when they saw him? 8:15 a.m. The executive floor came alive. Elevators chimed. Heels clicked against marble. The smell of fresh coffee drifted from the break room. Voices filled the hallway. Monday morning small talk, weekend plans, complaints about traffic on I-77. Byron was already on his knees. He'd been scrubbing the baseboard along the main corridor for 30 minutes. His hands smelled like pine cleaner. His knees ached against the hard floor. A yellow, wet floor sign stood behind him like a little flag nobody noticed. People walked past. Dozens of them. Not one looked down. A woman in red heels stepped over his mop bucket without breaking stride. A man in a gray suit nearly kicked his cleaning rag. Neither said excuse me.
Neither said anything. Byron kept his head low. His notebook sat in his back pocket. He was already keeping count. 14 people so far. 0 acknowledgements. Then, at 8:32, one person stopped. "Good morning." Byron looked up. A young woman, early 30s, dark hair pulled back, a coffee cup in one hand, a stack of folders in the other. Her badge read, Elena Voss, Junior Analyst. "Morning," Byron said. She smiled. It was small, quick, almost nervous, like she wasn't sure if she was allowed to talk to him, but she did it anyway. "First day?" "Yes, ma'am." "Well, welcome. The coffee in the break room is terrible, but the view from the east window is worth it." She walked away. Byron watched her go. Then he reached into his back pocket, pulled out his notebook, and wrote 2 words. Elena Voss. He circled her name. She was the only one. 9:30 a.m. The executive break room. Byron pushed his mop bucket through the door.
The room smelled like burnt coffee and microwaved leftovers. He started wiping down the counters, clearing crumbs, and replacing the trash bag in the corner bin. Then the door swung open. Craig Dutton walked in first. Tailored navy suit, Rolex flashing. Behind him, Pamela Caldwell, senior account manager. Blonde hair pinned up tight. Thin smile that never reached her eyes. 2 other managers followed. All of them were laughing at something Craig had just said. They didn't see Byron. Or maybe they did and simply didn't care. Craig pulled out his phone, put it on speaker, dialed someone. The whole room could hear. "Yeah, listen, I need that Moore kid moved off the Henderson account. He's useless." A voice on the speaker. "Derek Moore? He's been handling Henderson for 6 months. The client likes him." Craig rolled his eyes. Pamela smirked. "The client likes him because he smiles a lot. That's it. The kid can barely read the contracts. Classic affirmative action hire. We lowered the bar so far, a dog could jump over it." Pamela laughed. One of the other managers looked at the floor. The other one stared at his phone. "Just move him to the mailroom or something, somewhere he can't do any damage. Let him sort packages. That's more his speed." Byron stood 3 feet away, wringing out a rag over the sink. His hands didn't shake, his face didn't change, but his jaw tightened, just slightly. Craig hung up. Then his eyes finally landed on Byron. "Hey, new guy." Byron turned. "Yes, sir?" "Are you done with this room yet? It smells like bleach and whatever you had for breakfast. I've got a meeting here in 10 minutes. I don't want it smelling like this." He waved his hand in Byron's direction. The gesture said everything. "I'll be finished shortly," Byron said. "Shortly? How about now? Move faster and take that bucket out of here. It's disgusting." Byron picked up the bucket, headed toward the door. Craig called after him.
"And next time, use the service hallway. I don't want maintenance people wandering through the executive floor like they own the place." Pamela whispered something to Craig. They both laughed. Byron stepped into the corridor, pulled out his notebook, wrote, "Craig Dutton, 9:34 a.m. Racial comments re Derek Moore. Hostile, dismissive, dehumanizing." He put the notebook back, kept mopping. 11 a.m. The 22nd floor corridor. Byron was emptying trash cans, methodical, quiet, bin by bin, cubicle by cubicle. He tied off each bag, dropped it into the rolling cart, and replaced the liner. His movements were practiced, muscle memory from years ago, from a life most people in this building couldn't imagine. Then he heard heels, fast, coming his way. Pamela Caldwell appeared at the end of the hallway. She was carrying a large white trash bag, stuffed full, bulging at the seams. Shredded documents, food containers, wet coffee filters leaking brown liquid down the side. She walked straight toward Byron, didn't slow down. "Hey, janitor, catch!" She held the bag out at arm's length, then let go. It hit the floor at Byron's feet. The bag split open on impact. Coffee grounds sprayed across the freshly mopped tile. Banana peels, soggy napkins, half-eaten yogurt. A pool of brown liquid spread across the white floor like a stain. Pamela looked down at the mess, then back up at Byron. She tilted her head. "Oops, guess you've got more work to do. That is what you're here for, right?" She smiled, not with warmth, with power. 3 employees stood nearby. One, a young man at a cubicle, froze with his hand on his mouse. Another woman turned her chair away. Elena Voss, 10 feet down the hall, looked up from her desk. Her face went tight. Her fingers gripped the edge of her folder, but she didn't speak. Nobody spoke. Byron looked at the mess at his feet. Coffee grounds soaking into his work boots, the smell of rotten banana thick in the air. He got down on his knees, and he started picking it up, piece by piece, with his bare hands. Coffee grounds squeezed between his fingers. Yogurt dripped from a crushed container onto his wrist. Pamela watched for a moment, satisfied. Then she noticed the notebook sticking out of his back pocket. "What's that? Are you writing a complaint?" She laughed. "Good luck. HR works for us, sweetheart." She turned on her heel and walked away. Her heels clicked a steady rhythm down the marble hallway. Click, click, click. Getting quieter. Gone. Byron stayed on his knees. He finished picking up every piece of garbage, wiped the floor clean, tied the torn bag into a new one. Then he stood up, pulled out the notebook, wrote, "Pamela Caldwell, 11:02 a.m. Deliberate. Targeted. Witnesses present." He slipped the notebook back into his pocket and pushed the cart to the next bin. His face showed nothing, but inside, the data was building. 11:20 a.m. The service elevator. Byron pressed the button. The doors groaned open. Inside, a young black man in a navy polo was leaning against the wall. Badge, Derek Moore, mailroom. Derek looked at Byron's stained shirt, the coffee grounds on his boots. His eyes softened. "First day?"
That obvious? Derek almost smiled. Yeah, man, I can tell. Let me guess. They already got to you. Byron stepped inside. The doors closed. The elevator hummed downward. What do you mean? Derek shook his head slowly. Craig Dutton and Pamela. They run this place like it's their personal kingdom. Anyone who doesn't look like them gets treated like dirt. How long has this been going on? 4 years for me. But it's been like this way before I got here. Craig's gotten 3 maintenance workers fired in the last year alone. All black. All for insubordination. You know what insubordination means around here? It means you looked him in the eye. Byron was quiet for a moment. Anyone report it? Derek let out a short, bitter laugh. To who? Sandra Cole in HR? She buries everything. She's Craig's safety net. Complaints go in, nothing comes out. One guy, Terrence, filed a formal grievance last March. Gone the next week. No explanation. Just gone. The elevator stopped. Doors opened. Derek looked at Byron straight. Look, man, I'm telling you this because I wish somebody told me on my first day. Keep your head down. Don't make eye contact with Craig. Don't talk back. Don't write anything down. Just survive. That's all any of us do here. Byron held the door with one hand, looked Derek in the eye. I appreciate you telling me the truth. Derek nodded and stepped out. Byron stayed in the elevator. The doors started to close. Just before they shut, he said, quietly, almost to himself, not for long. 12:15 p.m. The 22nd floor was buzzing with lunch hour energy. The smell of takeout Chinese food drifted through the corridor.
Someone microwaved fish in the break room. Phones rang. Printers hummed. Byron was mopping the hallway outside the main conference room. Slow, steady strokes. The gray water in his bucket had turned almost black. He'd been working for nearly 6 hours straight. No break. No lunch. Nobody had offered him either. His back ached. His knees throbbed. His shirt still smelled like coffee grounds from the trash bag Pamela had thrown at him an hour ago. But his notebook was filling up. Every name, every time, every word. Then he heard Craig Dutton's voice coming down the corridor. Loud, confident, getting closer. Craig wasn't alone this time. Beside him walked Tom Weaver, head of building security. Buzz cut, broad chest. A walkie-talkie clipped to his belt that crackled with static every few seconds. Behind them, Pamela Caldwell, arms crossed. A smile was already forming on her lips, like she knew what was coming. Craig stopped directly in front of Byron, feet planted wide, arms crossed. He looked down at Byron, the way a man looks at something stuck to the bottom of his shoe. Put the mop down. Byron stopped mopping, looked up. There's been a report, Craig said. He didn't say it to Byron. He said it loud, loud enough for the entire hallway to hear. Heads turned in cubicles. People leaned back in their chairs to watch. A laptop is missing from conference room B. A brand new MacBook Pro. $2,000. Disappeared sometime this morning. He let the words hang in the air. Let them settle over the hallway like smoke. And you, he pointed at Byron's chest, have been working on this floor all day. Alone, in every room, with access to everything. Byron set the mop against the wall. I haven't taken anything, sir. Sir. Craig repeated the word like it tasted funny. Well, sir, we're going to find out. Empty your pockets. Right here, right now, everything. Tom Weaver shifted his weight. His hand moved to his belt. Not to the walkie-talkie, but closer to the handcuffs. He looked uncomfortable, but he didn't object, didn't say a word. Byron didn't argue. He reached into his pockets slowly.
placed each item on the hallway table, one at a time. A worn leather wallet, a cell phone, the small notebook, a ring of building keys, a ballpoint pen. Craig snatched the wallet, opened it. His fingers flipped through the billfold like he was sorting mail. Then he stopped. His eyes went wide for half a second. He pulled out a black American Express card, the Centurion card, titanium, the one you can't apply for, you get invited, the one with no spending limit. Craig held it up between two fingers, turned it slowly in the fluorescent light. Well, what do we have here? He showed it to Tom Weaver. Then he turned and held it up high so the gathering crowd of employees could see. 15 people. 20. More appearing at the edges of cubicles every second.
A black card on a janitor's salary. He laughed, one sharp, ugly sound. Where'd you steal this, boy? It's mine, Byron said. His voice was level, no tremor, no hesitation. Yours. Craig's smile widened into something cruel. He slid the card back onto the table like it was a piece of evidence at a crime scene. Right, and I'm the Queen of England, a janitor with a Centurion card. That's the funniest thing I've heard all year. Pamela stepped forward. She picked up Byron's cell phone from the table, turned it over in her hands. This is an iPhone 15 Pro Max, top of the line. She looked at Craig. Since when does a mop pusher carry a $1,000 phone? Craig nodded slowly. Good question, Pam. Real good question. He turned back to Byron, took one step closer, then another, close enough that Byron could smell the espresso on his breath.
Close enough that the entire hallway could see the power gap between them. The man in the $4,000 suit and the man in the stained polo shirt. Tom, I'm calling Charlotte PD right now. I want this man detained for suspected theft. The laptop, the credit card, the phone, all of it. Hold him here until they arrive. Byron's voice cut through clearly. You have no evidence, no basis for any of this. I haven't stolen anything. Craig lowered his phone slightly. His eyes narrowed into slits. No evidence? You're standing on my floor with pockets full of things you can't afford. That's all the evidence I need. He stepped even closer, so close their faces were almost touching. Let me make something real clear to you. I've been in this building 15 years. 15. I decide who walks these halls and who gets dragged out in cuffs. The CEO seat is empty. Nobody's coming to save you. That means I run this building. Every floor, every door, every person, including you. He pointed at the mop bucket. You think you matter? You're a warm body with a mop. I could replace you in an hour. I could replace you with a machine. The only reason you're still standing here is because I haven't finished dialing yet. Byron didn't step back, didn't blink. I'd like to speak to someone in authority. Craig's face twisted, something between amusement and raw contempt. Someone in authority. You're looking at him. I am the authority on this floor. You want to go above me? There is nobody above me. Not today, not ever. Not for someone like you. He jabbed a finger toward the elevator. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to pick up your little mop, your stolen credit card, your stolen phone, and your fake wallet, and you're going to walk out that door. Or I'm going to have the police walk you out in handcuffs, and I will personally make sure you never work in this city again. Your choice. Silence. Complete silence. The entire floor had stopped. Phones unanswered. Keyboards still. 30 employees watching from cubicles, doorways, and the ends of corridors. Nobody moved to help. Nobody said a word. Then one voice, small, shaking. But there. Craig, this seems excessive. Elena Voss. She stood 5 feet from the crowd. Her hands were trembling against her folder, but her voice held. He's the new maintenance guy. It's his first day. Maybe we should just check the security cameras before we... Nobody asked you, Elena. Craig didn't even look at her. His voice dropped into something venomous. Go back to your little spreadsheets before you end up walking out right beside him. Don't test me. Elena's mouth closed. Her eyes glistened. She took a half step back, but she didn't leave. She stayed at the edge of the crowd, watching, hands balled into fists at her sides. Craig turned back to Byron. The phone was still in his hand. His thumb hovered over the call button. Last chance, mop boy. Walk out on your feet or get carried out on your back. I don't care which. Byron didn't move. His feet were planted. His hands hung at his sides. His breathing was steady, almost unnervingly steady. I'm not leaving. Something shifted in Craig's face. The performance was over. The amusement was gone. What replaced it was cold, flat, animal anger. He reached down and grabbed the mop from Byron's bucket, gripped the wooden handle with both hands, and shoved it hard into Byron's chest. The handle pressed into Byron's sternum, hard enough to push him back one full step, hard enough to leave a mark, hard enough that every person in that hallway heard the thud of wood against bone. I said, "Get out." The hallway gasped. A woman covered her mouth. Someone whispered, "Oh my God," from behind a partition. Tom Weaver's hand finally went up. "Craig, come on, maybe we should—" Craig silenced him with a look that could cut through concrete. Tom's hand dropped. He looked at the floor.
Byron looked down at the mop handle still pressed against his chest. He could feel the pressure against his ribs, could feel the bruise already forming under his shirt. Then he looked up, directly into Craig's eyes. His voice came out low, calm, steady as stone, like a man who had been waiting for exactly this moment. "You're going to want to take your hand off that mop." Craig sneered. His knuckles went white on the handle. He leaned in. So close, their faces were inches apart. So close, Byron could see the vein pulsing in Craig's temple. Or what? What are you going to do? Call your lawyer? You don't have a lawyer. You don't have anything. You're nobody. Byron said nothing. He just held Craig's stare, unblinking, unshaking, like a man who already knew exactly how this story was going to end. And Craig, for the first time all day, felt something he didn't understand. A flicker behind those calm brown eyes. Something that didn't belong to a janitor. Something that made the back of his neck go cold for just 1 second. Something that looked like power. But Craig shoved the feeling away, tightened his grip, pushed harder. Behind them, the elevator chimed. "Okay, y'all, pause for a second. Are you seeing this? This man just assaulted someone in front of 30 people. Broad daylight. Security right there. And nobody did anything? Not one person? That's crazy. Like, the audacity is actually unhinged. But nah, hold on. What happens next? Yeah, you're not ready for that." The elevator doors slid open. Arthur Whitfield stepped out first. 60 years old, silver hair combed back, 3-piece charcoal suit. He walked like a man who had been in boardrooms longer than most people had been alive. His face was calm until he saw the scene in front of him. Behind Arthur, 2 corporate attorneys in dark suits, leather briefcases, faces like stone. Behind them, a woman carrying a professional camera with a Greystone Properties lanyard around her neck. The company's communications director. 4 people, perfectly still, perfectly silent, standing in a line at the mouth of the hallway like a jury arriving at a verdict.
Every employee on the floor recognized Arthur Whitfield. He had been the interim CEO for 4 months. He was the highest authority anyone here had ever seen in person. Arthur's eyes moved across the hallway, the crowd of employees frozen in place. Tom Weaver standing uselessly with his hand near his belt.
Pamela Caldwell watching from the side with her arms crossed. And in the center of it all, Craig Dutton, gripping a mop handle pressed against the chest of a black man in a stained polo shirt. Arthur's jaw tightened. His eyes went dark. He didn't rush. He walked, slow, deliberate steps. His leather shoes clicked against the marble. Each step echoed. The hallway was so quiet you could hear the air conditioning hum through the vents. He stopped 10 feet from Craig, and when he spoke, his voice carried like a cannon shot. Craig. Craig turned. The mop handle was still pressed against Byron's chest. His face shifted. Confusion first, then a flash of panic, then a desperate attempt at composure. Arthur, hey, listen, we've got a situation here. This janitor, take your hands off him. What? Arthur, you don't understand. This guy stole a... I said take your hands off him. Now. Something in Arthur's voice made Craig's fingers loosen. The mop handle dropped. It clattered against the marble floor. The sound rang through the hallway like a gunshot. Arthur looked at Byron. Byron looked back. A single nod passed between them. Quiet, brief. The kind of nod between two men who had already discussed exactly how this moment would unfold. Arthur turned to face the hallway. Every eye was on him. 30 employees, 40. People had come from other sections, from other floors. Word had traveled fast. The silence was absolute. Arthur straightened his tie, and then he spoke. Loudly, clearly, so that every person on that floor, and the ones pressing their ears to the stairwell doors, could hear every single word. Ladies and gentlemen, I have an announcement. As most of you know, Greystone Properties was acquired last month by Pinnacle Equity Partners in a deal valued at $680 million. That acquisition was finalized this morning at 8 a.m. I am here to introduce the man who now owns this company. He turned and extended his hand toward Byron. This is Byron Johnson, founder and CEO of Pinnacle Equity Partners. As of this morning, he is the sole owner of Greystone Properties. He owns this building. He owns this company. And he is your new boss. Nothing moved. The hallway didn't breathe. Craig Dutton's face went white. Not pale, white. Like every drop of blood had drained out of him in a single second. His lips parted. No sound came out. His hands, the same hands that had shoved a mop into Byron's chest, hung limp at his sides, shaking. Pamela Caldwell stumbled backward 1 step. Her coffee mug slipped from her fingers. It hit the marble floor and shattered. Brown liquid splashed across her heels. She didn't bend down to clean it. She couldn't move. Tom Weaver's hand dropped from his belt. He stared at Byron like he was seeing a ghost. The two attorneys stepped forward. One of them opened a briefcase and pulled out a leather-bound folder. The acquisition documents. Byron's name on every page.
Byron reached up and unclipped the maintenance lanyard from his shirt, set it on the hallway table next to his wallet, his phone, and the black Amex card that Craig had called stolen. He straightened his polo shirt, picked up his notebook, and for the first time all day, he spoke with the full weight of who he really was. My name is Byron Johnson. I came here today to see the truth about this company. I wanted to know how Greystone treats the people who clean its floors, empty its trash, and keep this building running. He paused, looked around the hallway, eye to eye with every person watching. Now I know. He opened his notebook, read from it, calmly, precisely. 9:34 a.m. Craig Dutton made racially derogatory comments about a black employee on a speakerphone call in the break room. 11:02 a.m. Pamela Caldwell deliberately threw a bag of trash at me and laughed while I cleaned it with my bare hands. 12:18 p.m.
Craig Dutton conducted an illegal search of my personal belongings with no evidence. Accused me of theft based solely on my appearance. And at 12:26 p.m., Craig Dutton physically assaulted me with a mop handle in front of over 30 witnesses. He closed the notebook. The hallway was so silent you could hear Pamela's spilled coffee still dripping off the edge of a broken ceramic shard. Byron looked directly at Craig. You told me you were the authority. You told me nobody was above you. You told me I was nobody. He took one step forward. I am the man who signs your paycheck. And as of this moment, your career at this company is over. Craig Dutton's mouth opened, then closed, then opened again, like a fish dropped on hot concrete. Mr. Johnson, this was a misunderstanding. I didn't know. You thought what? Byron didn't yell. His voice was quiet. That was what made it terrifying. You thought I was just a black man with a mop, and because of that, you decided I was a thief. Nobody. Something to throw trash at. Craig's arrogance was gone. The Rolex on his wrist suddenly looked ridiculous. His hands trembled so hard he shoved them into his pockets. Please, I have a family. 15 years I've been here. I'll apologize. I'll do whatever. Byron turned to his attorney, nodded once. The attorney stepped forward. Mr. Dutton, you are suspended effective immediately. Your access is revoked. Security will escort you out. You will be contacted within 24 hours regarding termination and potential criminal charges for assault. Craig looked around the hallway, desperate, searching for an ally, anyone. Nobody met his eyes. The same colleagues who laughed at his jokes all morning now stared at the floor. 2 security guards flanked him. Sir, your badge. Craig fumbled the lanyard off his neck. His hand shook so badly the badge nearly hit the floor. They walked him toward the elevator. He turned his head as he passed a group of managers. Guys, come on. You know me. Tell them. Silence. Eyes down. The elevator doors opened. Craig stepped inside. The doors closed. Gone. Byron turned to Pamela Caldwell. She stood in a puddle of her own spilled coffee, broken ceramic at her feet, face the color of chalk. Miss Caldwell, what you did with that trash bag was not an accident. It was targeted, deliberate. You believed there would be no consequences. Suspended immediately, escorted out, legal review pending. Pamela's lip quivered. Nothing came out. She clutched her purse like a shield and walked toward the elevator on legs that barely held her. Nobody followed. Nobody said goodbye. Byron found Sandra Cole next, head of HR, standing in her office doorway, gripping a stack of folders, knuckles bone white. Ms. Cole, multiple complaints of discrimination buried under your watch. Silenced. Destroyed. Sandra rushed forward. Mr. Johnson, I can explain. The previous CEO instructed me to. Byron's attorney took the folders from her hands. We'll review those. Your badge, please. Administrative leave, effective now. Sandra's chin trembled. She placed her badge on the table without another word. 3 down. The hallway was still frozen. Then Byron found Elena Voss, standing at the edge of the crowd, tears running silently down her cheeks. He walked toward her. The crowd parted. You were the only person who said good morning to me today. The only one who tried to stop what was happening. He pulled out his notebook, opened it, held it up so she could see. Her name, circled. A note beside it. Good character. Keep. A sob escaped her. I should have done more. I should have...
You did more than anyone else in this building. I saw it. I wrote it down." He closed the notebook. "I'm restructuring leadership. I'd like you to be considered for a management role." Elena couldn't speak. She nodded.
Tears falling onto her folder. Byron turned toward the end of the hallway. Derek Moore stood half hidden behind a partition, mailroom badge around his neck, eyes wide. Byron walked over, extended his hand. Derek shook it slowly, like he wasn't sure it was real. "You told me the truth in that elevator. You tried to protect me. That makes you braver than every executive on this floor. Your testimony will matter, and you have my word. No retaliation. Not ever." Derek's eyes glistened. He nodded once, firm, the nod of a man who had waited 4 years to be seen. Byron stepped back, looked down the hallway one last time. Shattered coffee mug, wet floor. The mop was still lying where Craig had dropped it. He straightened his stained polo shirt and walked toward the corner office with the empty nameplate. It wouldn't be empty for long. The story didn't end when Craig Dutton walked into that elevator. It was just beginning.
Within 48 hours, Byron's legal team had turned the 22nd floor into a war room. 3 attorneys, 2 investigators, 1 forensic HR auditor flown in from New York. They took over the main conference room, the same room where Craig used to hold court, and began pulling every file, every email, every complaint record Greystone Properties had buried over the past 5 years. What they found made Byron's single day on the floor look like a preview. 14 formal complaints of racial discrimination, all filed against Craig Dutton, all routed through Sandra Cole's HR department. Not one had been investigated. Not one had resulted in any action. Every single complaint had been stamped "resolved, no further action," and filed away in a locked cabinet in Sandra's office. 8 minority employees, 6 Black, 2 Latino, had been terminated in the past 3 years. Every one of them had either filed a complaint or been named as a witness in someone else's complaint. The termination reasons were identical across the board: performance issues or insubordination. No documentation, no warnings, no performance reviews, just gone. One of them, a maintenance worker named Terrence Crawford, had filed a formal grievance against Craig in March of the previous year. He described being called racial slurs in the break room, being told he smelled like the subway, being forced to clean Craig's personal office on his hands and knees while Craig sat at his desk and watched. Terrence was fired 7 days after filing. His grievance disappeared from the system entirely. Sandra Cole's signature was on the termination form. Byron's attorneys compiled everything into a 200-page report. They referred the criminal matters to the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department on the 3rd day. The assault charge came first. Security camera footage from the 22nd floor hallway showed everything. Craig Dutton grabbing the mop handle, shoving it into Byron's chest. Byron stumbles backward. The footage was crystal clear. 4 different camera angles, time-stamped, and backed up on the building's server before anyone could think about deleting it. Craig was arrested at his home on a Thursday morning, 7 a.m. 2 officers at his front door. His wife watched from the upstairs window as they put him in the back of a cruiser. The charge? Simple assault and battery. But the district attorney reviewed the footage, reviewed Byron's notebook, reviewed the testimony of 11 witnesses, and added a hate crime enhancement based on the pattern of racially motivated behavior. Craig's attorney pushed for a plea deal. The DA refused. Public pressure was building. The story had leaked. A reporter at the Charlotte Observer broke it first. The headline ran above the fold. Billionaire goes undercover as janitor, discovers systemic racism at company he just bought. The article detailed everything: the trash throwing, the illegal search, the assault, the 14 buried complaints. By noon that day, the story had gone national, CNN picked it up, then MSNBC, then Fox, then every major news outlet in the country. Byron's face, still in that stained gray polo shirt from the security footage, was on every screen. The image of him kneeling on the floor, picking up garbage with his bare hands while Pamela Caldwell watched and laughed, became the defining photograph of the story. Byron did one interview, local Charlotte news. He sat in a chair wearing a simple dark suit, no tie. He spoke calmly, measured, the same voice he'd used all day in that hallway. The interviewer asked why he went undercover. Byron said, "I wanted to see the soul of this company, and what I saw was a culture where people were treated as less than human based on the color of their skin. That ends now." The clip went viral in under 2 hours. 80 million views across platforms in the first week.
The hashtags started trending immediately. Hashtag Byron Johnson. Hashtag Janitor CEO. Hashtag Greystone Exposed. Derek Moore gave an interview to a national outlet. Elena Voss spoke to 3. Their testimonies confirmed everything and added years of detail that Byron's single day couldn't capture. The trial came 3 months later. Mecklenburg County Superior Court. The prosecution's case was airtight. Security camera footage from 4 angles. Audio captured on an employee's phone, shaky, muffled, but unmistakable. Byron's handwritten notebook entries with exact times, exact quotes, exact names. Testimony from Derek Moore, Elena Voss, and 6 other employees who had been too afraid to speak before, but weren't anymore. Craig's defense was simple. It was a misunderstanding. I didn't know who he was. The prosecutor's response became the most quoted line of the trial. The law doesn't require you to know someone's net worth before you treat them with basic human dignity.
The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty. Assault with hate crime enhancement. The judge sentenced Craig Dutton to 18 months, 12 suspended, 300 hours of community service, mandatory racial sensitivity training, and a permanent bar from holding any supervisory position in any company. His name would be on the record forever. Craig stood in the courtroom when the verdict was read. He didn't speak. His wife wasn't there. She had filed for divorce 2 weeks earlier. The civil consequences came next, fast and heavy. Pamela Caldwell was terminated for cause. She filed a wrongful termination suit. It was dismissed in under a week when Byron's attorneys submitted the security footage of her throwing the trash bag. The judge didn't even allow oral arguments. Sandra Cole was terminated and reported to the North Carolina State Labor Board for professional misconduct. Her HR certification was revoked. She issued a public apology through her attorney. 4 sentences long. The internet dismissed it before lunch. And Byron didn't stop there. His legal team filed a civil rights class action on behalf of the 8 wrongfully terminated employees. The case settled in 60 days. $4.2 million total. Each former employee received back pay, damages, and a written offer of reinstatement at Greystone Properties. 5 of them accepted. Terrence Crawford, the maintenance worker who had been fired for filing a grievance, received the largest individual settlement. He returned to Greystone on a Monday morning. Byron met him at the front entrance, shook his hand, walked him to his new position, facility supervisor, executive floor, the same floor where he'd once been forced to clean on his hands and knees. 6 months later, the Greystone Properties lobby looked the same. Marble floors, chrome walls, the Silver Mountain logo above the reception desk. The waterfall is still humming against the far wall, but everything underneath had changed. Byron Johnson walked through the front entrance at 8 a.m. on a Monday morning. Tailored charcoal suit, no tie. The same calm eyes, the same steady walk. But this time, People saw him. "Good morning, Mr. Johnson." "Morning, Mr. Johnson." He nodded to each one, stopped near the elevators. A janitor was mopping, a young black man in a clean uniform with the company logo stitched on the chest. New uniforms. Byron had ordered them in the first week. "Morning, Darnell. How's the night class going?" Darnell looked up, smiled. "2 more semesters, sir. Accounting." "Good. Let me know if you need anything." Byron shook his hand, kept walking. This was the new Greystone. Every janitorial and maintenance worker had received a 40% raise. They were included in company-wide town halls for the first time. An anonymous reporting system sent complaints directly to an independent third-party firm. Mandatory anti-discrimination training every quarter. No exceptions. Elena Voss now held the title of Director of Client Relations. 2 promotions in 6 months. Her department had the highest client retention rate in the company. Derek Moore had transferred out of the mailroom into operations. Greystone was covering his full tuition for a business degree at UNC Charlotte. On weekends, he volunteered as a mentor for at-risk youth in West Charlotte. And then there were the ones who didn't make it. Craig Dutton served his sentence, filed for personal bankruptcy after. Legal fees wiped him clean. His wife finalized the divorce while he was inside. He applied for 3 jobs in the first month. All 3 rejected him. His name was permanently linked to the story. Every Google search, every background check, every interview that ended with silence. Pamela Caldwell couldn't find work anywhere in North Carolina. Her name had become shorthand for workplace cruelty. She reportedly moved out of state and enrolled in a community outreach program. Sandra Cole lost her HR certification permanently, retired early, issued a public apology through her attorney. The internet dismissed it before lunch. Byron held a company-wide meeting on a Friday afternoon. 400 employees in the main atrium. He stood at a podium with no notes. He told them about his first job. 19 years old. Janitor at a university in Maryland. Mopping fraternity floors. Cleaning vomit at 3 a.m. Picking up beer cans students threw at his head. One night, a senior executive saw Byron emptying trash and said, without hesitation, "People like you don't belong in buildings like this." Byron paused. The atrium was silent. That sentence became the engine of my entire career. I built Pinnacle Equity Partners to prove that man wrong. Not with words, with results. He leaned into the microphone. The measure of this company will never be our quarterly earnings. It will always be how we treat the person holding the mop. The atrium erupted. 400 people on their feet. Elena was crying again. Derek stood in the back row, arms crossed, nodding slowly. Darnell leaned on his mop handle near the lobby, grinning. Byron walked back through the lobby, the same lobby where trash had been thrown at his chest, where he'd been told to know his place. He stopped, looked down at the marble floor. Clean, polished, reflecting the morning light. He almost smiled. Look, I know it's fiction, but real talk? This one kinda messed with me. 'Cause that humiliation Byron felt? Yeah, I've seen that. You've seen that. We all have. And most of the time, nobody does anything. No twist, no justice, just silence. And yeah, that part right there, that's what sticks with me. So here's what I want to leave you with. Respect shouldn't depend on a job title, shouldn't depend on net worth, and it damn sure shouldn't depend on skin color. The real test of who you are is how you treat people when you think nobody important is watching. Because somebody is always watching. So my question, have you ever seen someone get treated like this? And did you stay silent, or did you speak up? Drop your story in the comments. If this hit you in your chest, smash that like button. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you're new here, subscribe. We tell stories like this every week. Stories where justice isn't just a wish, it's a promise.